Hi, in this video I'm going to show you how to create interactive components in Harmony. So I already have this component in Harmony. It's a recommendation card. And I want to do two things. I wanted to expand and collapse. So when it collapses, I only want to show this header of the page, of the card. And I want to, when it's ignored, I want to display a label here that this is ignored, and I want to change this color from red to gray. So I already have this recommendation cards here in Figma, and when it's ignored, you can see that the button has changed from ignore this to undo ignoring, and you can see that there is a label here that says ignored. And yeah, that's basically what I want to do. And yeah, let's basically start doing this in Harmony. So before we start, we need actually to create JavaScript actions, but it's not it's just one line of JavaScript that you need to add in each action. So we go here, we create we search for elements JavaScript, and we put one here, and we need to repeat this for 4 times. So cut, paste before, paste before, paste before, and paste before. Why I did this 4 times? Because I have 4 actions here. I have an action when I expand, I have an action when I collapse the card, I have an action when I ignore the card, and I have an action when I undo ignoring the card. So let's name my actions. So first one is expand, and I want to call it expand. Next one is collapse, and the ID is collapse. It's really important to set an ID for each action, because this ID is the ID that you're gonna use when you define the click action. And the third action is ignore, and the fourth action is unignore. So here unignore, and here is ignore. And basically what I'm gonna need to write in every one of these is to write some JavaScript in each one of them. So the first one is expand. This is the default. So by default it's expanded. So this, we need to write this dot binding. And what does this dot binding do is that it creates a new data for you in Harmony. So I need to create a variable called this dot binding dot expand equal true, which means that this thing is expanded by default in Harmony. And I want to run this statement, and I want to run it in page load. Run in page load means that this is the default. And I want to copy the same action and go to collapse. And when I click edit code, I want to set this dot binding dot expand equal false. So this is the opposite, basically, of the previous action. And I don't need to run this event on page load, because if I run it on page load, then it will expand my card, it will collapse my card by default, and I don't want this. So let's repeat the same steps for the ignore. So I'm gonna go here, and I'm gonna write this dot binding, and this time ignore is false, and this is also a default. It's not it's no, it's actually there. It's actually the opposite. I want to copy this in unignore first. So I go to unignore. I write here this do binding to ignore equal false. And this means that by default, and I want to run it on page dot, this means that by default that my recommendation card is not ignored. And I'm gonna copy the same thing here inside ignore, but this time if it's ignored it should be true. And I click run statement. And then if I click save and reload the page, I can see that expand is true by default and ignored is false by default. Okay? And what I need to do basically is to attach these JavaScript actions or JavaScript events to the actions and to the UI elements, I mean, and also to create a display F to show based on this we show or hide the component. So let's add a couple of create ifs. So first I need this cart content here to be displayed if the card is expanded. Okay, so I need to copy this and paste it inside this create if statement, and then I need to delete it actually. And inside this create if, as we said in the previous video, we need to always use this keyword, which is called code3. And the target of this one is this dot, and the target of this one actually is binding dot expanded. So here what I'm saying is if this binding dot expanded is true, then show me this cart content. So actually not expanded, binding dot expand. So yeah, if the binding dot expand is true, show the card content. If the binding dot expand is false, don't show the card content. And inside my layout I have this collapser, this arrow, and in this arrow when I click it I actually wanna set the card to collapsed. So I wanna run this JavaScript that collapsed the card, that set the expand to false. So I'm gonna copy the ID and I'm gonna go inside my collapser and I'm gonna paste it as an onClick event. And I wanna do the same on this layout. When I click it, I want to expand the card. So I wanna go here and click copy expand, and on click I wanna expand this card. Okay, so let's reload the page and test this out. So if I click this, I collapse. If I click this, I expand. Wow, cool. What else I need to do? I need to also do the same for the ignored things. So when I ignore a card, I wanna make this gray. I wanna display this thing here, so I'm gonna export it as an SVG. And I want to change the button copy from ignore this to undo ignoring. Cool, so let's do this in Harmony. But before I do this, I need to copy a sample in Harmony, which is, let's go to the Insights panel, where is this? Yeah, I need to copy this symbol, basically this circle symbol, and I'm gonna show you why I need this circle symbol. So let's maybe open a note and copy this circle symbol here and make this bigger. Okay, cool. Let's go back. And I also wanna copy this color value. And yeah, let's get started. So what I basically need to do is when I click ignore, I want to do some stuff. So let's go inside this create if and go to the footer, and I have this ignore this, and in this case I need to put it inside a layout to be able to make it clickable. So this is what I'm gonna do now. Actually, no, this is above. Again. Yeah, layout, cut, paste after. Yeah, cut, paste. Yeah, this is what I need to do basically, and I'm gonna call this, always name your layouts, and I'm gonna call this ignore. And when I click this, I want to run this JavaScript, which is called ignore. So I go here, I click ignore. Okay. And yeah, when I click, when ignore is true, I want to make this text here to be, when it's unignored, it should be called ignore this. When it's already ignored, it should be called unignore. So what I'm gonna need to do here is I am gonna paste, I'm gonna write an expression here that says this dot binding equal what is the name, ignore, this dot binding dot ignore if it's this dot binding dot ignore question mark, this means if this dot binding dot ignore is true, so if this is ignored, then I wanna make this button called undo ignoring, and else, which is this, what this double dots mean, I wanna call it ignore this. And I'm gonna copy this here and I'm gonna paste it inside the text. And instead of this dot binding, I'm just gonna say binding dot ignore. Yeah. Why it doesn't work? Maybe Maybe let's reload the page to check. Oh, it still doesn't work. Or maybe let's change this to true. Okay, let's do it actually the other way around. Let's delete this actually. Okay, let's do it the other way around. Let's actually copy this thing and paste it after. And I'm gonna add two createif statements. And where is createif? Here, copy, yeah, and one of them I'm gonna call ignore this, and one of them I'm gonna call unignore, and I'm gonna call this text undo ignoring. And yeah, and I'm gonna put this copy, cut, paste inside. I'm gonna go cut, paste inside, and I'm gonna rename this to if ignored, and I'm gonna rename this to if unignored. Okay, so, and basically when it's unignored and it's and the text is undo ignoring, I might trigger the ignore action. And if it's already ignored, if it's not ignored, I'm gonna unignore. I'm gonna trigger the unignore action. Okay, and here I need to add code 3 as always in the conditions. You need to add this keyword, and here I want to say display if binding dot ignore is false. So is false means that I wanna add an exclamation mark here. Okay, and I wanna do the opposite in this one. So I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna delete this exclamation mark. Okay, actually it is I want to do the opposite. So if it's unignore, then do this. So yeah, and let's try it out. Oh wow, it didn't save. It didn't save. Okay. We need to do the same steps again. Okay, let's do it again. Ignore, copy, unignore, here when I click this I wanna trigger ignore. Here when I click this I wanna trigger unignore. Okay, and I'm gonna call this undo ignoring, and I'm gonna call this ignore, and I'm gonna need to add a couple of create if statements. Copy, paste before. I'm gonna call this if not ignored, and I'm gonna call this if ignored, and I need to cut this here and paste it inside, and I need to cut this here and paste it inside. Okay, and always the type is code 3. Type is code 3. So if not ignored, so that means binding dot ignore is false, so I need to add the exclamation mark here. Okay, and I want to do the opposite here, so I am gonna delete the exclamation mark. So this say undo ignoring, and this say ignore this. Okay, cool. And I want to add a decoration here under line, and I want to add a decoration here under line, and I want to click save, and let's reload the page. When I click ignore this, when I click ignore this, it says undo ignoring. When I click undo ignoring, it says ignore this. Cool. Now what's left is to actually change the color here of the border. So let's do this. If I go to my layout, I have this red thing here that is already by default, it has this red color. And what I'm gonna do is, let's paste the color here. If this binding ignore is true, I wanna use this color, and if this binding ignore is false, I wanna use this color. And I'm gonna copy this expression here, and I'm gonna paste it in the background. So without this keyword. Let's test this out. If this actually works. Save, reload. It doesn't work for some reason. Okay, let's check actually if this syntax is true or not. So let's go back to our tutorial 1, wherein we created the video list. And let's click on one of these. We already had a syntax for a background. Yeah, here it says binding the visual color. Okay. And where is visual color? Okay, let's go back to my tutorial 3 page. and let's also do it the other way around. Let's add two things. So I have this thing here. I'm gonna copy it. I'm gonna click paste after. No. No. Cut. I'm gonna copy this thing. I'm gonna click. Oh wow, it's still like copy the same thing. So if you wanna another way around, if you wanna copy something, you can click copy, and you can click import JSON after, and you click paste, and you click import, and now you have two things. And I'm gonna core this border not ignored, and I'm gonna call this border ignored, and I'm gonna add a couple of create ifs. And I'm gonna paste this inside, put this inside, if not ignored, if ignored. Okay, cool. And instead of this long line of color, I will just add if not ignored. Please add this color, which is the red. And if ignored, add this color, which is gray. Okay, and now I just need to bind it to data, so always type code 3, and here also code 3. And since this actually has the same logic as here, if not ignored, so I will just copy it and paste it, and copy it and paste it. Okay, save. Let's test this out. So if I click if I click ignore this, it's gray. If I click no ignoring, it's red. Cool. And now what I need to do is also display something here if it's ignored. So if I go to my header and this collapser, I want to add another image here. So image, and I want to upload this SVG that I already no, not this one, but this label. So let's copy the whole thing. And let's go back to Harmony, upload, downloads. And I have this nice label here. And maybe let's add a spacing between them. So I would add just a layout here that has a width of maybe 12 px to add a little bit of spacing between these elements. And I want this image. I want this image to be only shown if the thing is ignored. So let's add a create if. Let's paste the image inside, code 3, and copy this line that says that if ignored, please display it. Okay, click save, click reload. Yeah, we need to ignore this. Cool. Also, what I need to do is to change maybe I also need to change the text here. So I can also do the same. I can add 2 text layers and display one of them when it's ignored and display another one when it's not ignored. So we can also do this, copy, paste after, and we can actually do this. Was ignored, click unignore to see the recommendation. Cool. Yeah. And I also need to add a creative and another creative. Type is code 3. And I'm gonna call this if ignored, if not ignored. And I'm gonna copy the same thing. And I'm gonna copy the same thing. Cool. And now I have it. Click save, click reload. Wow, it doesn't work for some reason. So let's investigate the text, if not ignored. Yeah, we forgot to add code 3. Cool, save. So click ignore, you see this, click unignore, you see this. The text change. And the last thing that I want to do is I want to hide this section I want to hide these 2 interactive elements if the thing is ignored. So I am gonna also add another creative statement here, and I'm gonna call this if ignored, code 3 binding dot ignore, and I'm gonna paste them inside. And that basically say that if this is ignore, yeah, actually it should be the opposite. If it's only, it should be shown if this is not ignored. So yeah, now it works. Save, click reload. If I click ignore this, it says ignored. If I click undo ignoring, it's undo, it shows everything. Ignore this, you can see it here. Yeah, so that's basically how you can do conditional, how you can change component states in Harmony. So basically I have 2 states. Basically in my data I have a state called expand and a state called ignored. And when you click ignore, you can see that ignore is true. And when I click undo ignoring, you can see that in ignore is false. And I have another state which is expand and collapse. And here, when I click expand, it's false. When I click this thing, expand is false. That means it's not expanded. And when I click here, expand is true. That means it's expanded. And that's how you can change states and keep track of your component states in Harmony. Thanks for watching.